What's up, guys? In today's video, we are talking about how to work with client feedback. And since this video is all about collaboration, I wanted to mix things up a bit today and let some other colorists do the talking. So I asked Katie Jordan from Light Iron, Dario Bigi from Bonfire, and Chris Rodgers from Company 3 to share their best strategies on this aspect of our craft. This video is sponsored by Frame.io Insider, which puts out a ton of great articles on all aspects of production and post-production, including my companion article for this video, which I'm going to leave a link to down in the description. And now let's hear from Katie, Dario, and Chris.
It's all about collaboration. Like, our whole job is collaborating.
Client management's taken me years. It's something that you learn as you go. I used to bartend, so I've got the gift of gab.
Really, it's about the people you work with. If I had to pick one overarching thing, it's getting in as early as possible.
I like to collaborate as early as possible, and just to know, like, I love being able to watch dailies or like camera test stuff. I feel more like attached to the whole project.
In an ideal world, I get to have a conversation with the creatives that are involved in the project, and I will have that conversation before they shoot a frame.
Listening is really important. I feel like anytime I've tried to like anticipate what they're gonna want, it always is better to just take a moment and like listen and then respond.
Personally, like always dealing with the question of like, not that you even want it warmer or colder, it's like, how do you want it to feel?
When people get super specific about like midtones and da-da-da, like I find they've probably worked with someone who works in that specific way and they started to use that wording, but I'm always going to do my version of what you say.
Somebody giving me a very prescriptive note of, can you please drop gamma by 4% or whatever. I wouldn't tell them this, but I would flat out ignore that note. I'm thinking about not what are they actually saying, but what do they mean by what they're saying.
I like literal notes because then I can see exactly what they're asking for, and if I like what it looks like, and then from there I can interject back. I applied that to my eye on my monitor, because now we're talking about remote. So to my eye on my monitor, it looks good, here it is, or it looks like it's a little bit too much, so I scaled it back. What do you think?
But sometimes the notes are actually almost the opposite of what they really mean, saying, I feel that their face is too dark. What they really are responding to is the window behind them being too bright. When you point that out, like, oh, do you know what? That's exactly what was bothering me. I just hadn't realized it.
Nobody wants to feel uninformed or stupid. So when you're sharing information, you're educating them in, but you can't make them feel like they should have known something. It's more of a sharing process. Also, you always have to consider what they're looking at it on. So I try to keep that dialogue open. And I've seen it even with live sessions. I'm like, I see somebody sitting by a window and I'm like, first of all, I want to get you away from some lights and I want to get you away from the window. I want to make sure the brightness on your screen is 50%. And I want to make sure that your screen is set to 709.
I want to keep it as simple as possible. So if we keep like tweaking, it's not a good sign. And maybe it's something is wrong in the beginning. Maybe I'll like strip off everything and kind of start fresh.
And another example might be a flashback sequence. How many elements do you want to add into a flashback sequence visually before it starts to feel overkill?
If we're working like linear, and we hit a scene that just keeps just not working, and if we just spend so much time at a certain point, I'll be like, why don't we just like leave this, move on, and come back with fresh eyes? Like, I'm a big proponent of like fresh eyes, or just like maybe keep working, then we'll understand this better.
If you can see it through their eyes, I think that goes a long way. If you understand that they care about what they're doing, they want the best result, and of course they want to have some input. So don't take it personally if they turn up and say, I think this should be a bit more like X. Maybe
it's their first time in color and they don't have the jargon and they don't have the vocabulary and they need to like work through it.
With that in mind, I now try to build a grade in such a way that allows me to make changes that can be fairly global and fairly sweeping and won't break. And then at the point where they come in, if they want to say, this whole scene needs to be half stop brighter or warmer, you say, how's this? And they say, great. And then, and they say, can you do the whole scene? And I'll say, it's already done.
I make small changes. I get a note just recently, just like, could just increase the contrast. And I did it as a global test on the timeline, just to make sure, see if it would carry over. But it was very subtle. And the client was just like, great. So I did it just a touch because it doesn't have to go that much farther.
If I feel that, it's usually that we're being too aggressive, and so maybe I'll show them like the raw, like, or the starting place, and just to show like how far we've taken it, and that like, are you sure you want to take it that far? And they don't feel it until they see like 0 to 100.
I used to get stressed, and I used to worry about people coming in and wanting to do something that I didn't like, or that they were going to ask me too many questions, or they were going to get too involved, and I wanted to just have a day where I could just concentrate on the grading. But actually, if that wish had come true and every job I did had very little interaction with clients, I mean, it would get boring very quickly. You know, some of the best grades I've done are the ones where clients have led me off in a different direction, and it's something I wouldn't have thought of.